Hello and welcome to Season 5, Episode 5 of the Voiro podcast. We are back from Singapore.
Welcome.
Yeah, and as promised, we're going to do a recap of ATS today. Welcome back, Kavita, Shenoy, and Abash, Sinha.
Hi.
How was your trip to Singapore, guys?
I loved it.
I'll let Abash go first.
I loved
Even
it.
It was his first time in Singapore. Well, hang on, before that, I have to talk about Bangalore's T2. It was my first time in the new terminal.
Oh, nice.
And the international departure terminal was, for me, huge disappointment.
Oh.
Huge. There was nothing.
You liked it?
I liked it.
There was nothing there. There was a lot of cane, waterfalls, no shops, no restaurant, like barely. There were like 3 or 4 shops.
So, what are the restaurants there?
There's a Starbucks.
Oh.
There's a Jamie Oliver pizza. And there's like a patisserie. There's hardly anything.
I think the domestic side is a little better prepared.
Yeah.
I've
And
never
there's a
been to
lot
one.
of seating that is really like spaced out and really far from each other. And there's a lot of cane and bamboo. So I like the outside is nice. I get that the domestic
Fire
is nice.
hazard.
Yeah. But the international one I think needs a...
I'm sure they'll start doing it.
I hope so. Then I caught Abash and I was complaining to him.
There's no bar?
There is
one. There's that Irish pub. Yeah.
I think there were. I did notice some place else as well, but I didn't mind the Irish pub.
No. And there's a glass wall through which you can see the
that
domestic side.
belies your age. When you say you don't mind the Irish pub, that means we know how old you are.
Yeah, we went there. We went to the Irish pub.
Yeah, it
Okay.
It was okay. But yes,
So, Singapore was good?
was amazing.
What did you guys go there for?
ATS.
ATS 2023.
I remember when we had that podcast and somebody wrote in saying, what is ATS?
Yeah. We went for ATS, but we landed on Monday. And the first thing we learned is Abash only has a Diners Club credit card, which is not accepted anywhere.
Well, how did you get a Diners Club credit card?
I don't know. That's
Why
what
don't you have
I'm not-
MasterCard or Visa?
No, but what is like?
Debit
I
ones,
thought
yeah.
Diners Club is only for like my dad's era. Even he doesn't have it.
They looked at it and they were like,
What is this?
What is this?
Listen, they have something called nets or something in Singapore. It's not accepted anywhere else in the world.
Yeah. So we didn't have that, nor did we have. So I had to fund Abash for most of the trip.
Yeah,
Superb.
Yeah, but like
This is a very good plan, Abash, and I'm going to borrow this tactic. Absolutely amazing.
Oh, I just have like Dana Bank.
what? No, we did withdraw cash and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so-
he had cash for the rest of the trip.
Yeah.
What did you eat anything interesting? Did you drink anything interesting?
I think all I did there was eat
And drink.
and drink because
Singapore way.
Yeah, because Anand's been there before, and I think it's great when you travel and someone knows the space and you know what to do and everything.
We had a great time when we went. Kavita and I last
Yeah.
year. Also ate a lot while we
Yes.
were there.
The food is so good.
It's damn good.
It's so good. I tried new things and I was just blown that this is like
This can be life.
this
But I
could be
still
like-
think Singapore is it's like Truman Show.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
after a point you're like going in circles and looking at the same stuff. But it's nice.
The walking got to me.
Got to you.
Yeah, I mean,
Actually, anywhere else in the world except Bangalore, you can walk a lot. I mean, it's a way of life. Here, our way of life is sedentary. We just sit in one place, or we're stuck in traffic and we're sitting in traffic. There's really no walking that we're
think
doing.
what
We
we
have no
covered-
footpaths either.
yeah, we covered like a good amount.
17,000 steps just commuting.
Yeah,
Nice.
And we were at an event where there was also a lot of walking.
yeah.
Yeah, events
And
are
just standing.
crazy.
Yeah, because events you mostly just stand. Either networking, this, that, food, any of it, you're just standing all the time.
I broke my cardinal rule. On the way back, when we finished day 2 of the event, at the airport, I switched to flip-flops for the flight back. I was just like, I gave up. I was like, I cannot do this.
And then he gave me a hard time for it. I mean, he's just like kept making fun of me. Abash, you don't know.
This is Anand, who would carry an extra pair of socks
Yes.
to wear, to change on the flight. I didn't understand
Mid-flight,
that.
yes.
Yes,
Dude,
mid-flight he would
carried
change his
brushes.
socks.
Like we reached there and I'm like, oh, I need to brush. I'm feeling like, oh, I brushed. I'm like, what? Where?
Yeah, but
When?
that's because you have not traveled that much, I guess.
yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Is
You
that
gotta
normal?
wake up when the plane is dark, the lights are off, and everybody is sleeping. Then you get the restroom to yourself. So wash your face, brush your teeth. Anyway, I don't know why we're talking about this on.
Yes,
on
on ATS, on our podcast about ATS. But tell us, what did you come back with after attending all the sessions that you did? And I mean, we had a WhatsApp group going, so you were updating us live, and we were also, according to our marketing team, talking about ATS way more than Exchange Wire.
Yes.
yeah. I think at some point they reposted our
We made
post
life
as
easy.
well. Like,
They're like, just forget it. Somebody else is doing the job. Just let's just repost it.
yeah, that was fun. I really love the sessions. I think some of the topics that they picked, like retail and the programmatic OH and conversational AI and attention as a metric, stuff that we were looking forward to and we covered in the last podcast. And the kind of points that they covered through each of them was quite interesting. It gives you a good sense. I think every time we go to these events, when we went to Dubai, we went to AdTech Delhi and CTV symposium that we had. I think we keep coming back with so much more. And I think this time again, we've gone to ATS and we've come back with so much more. It was great.
Anything new that you heard at ATS this time in terms of a point of view
Yeah, a
or
couple of
focus?
things. So I like how they open, and this seems to be Exchange Wire style. I've seen this on the agenda at ATS London. I saw it at Mad Take Money. They opened day one by first addressing the state of the global economy and the sort of importance that ad spend plays in that economy. Right? I love that they do that because it sets the macroeconomic sort of foundation for any other conversation to be had. And they had some interesting representation on that panel from agencies, from brands, and a gentleman called Silas, who's from Helion, who did this last year as well, who made an interesting point. He said the next 1 year is going to be slow. There's inflation that's going to affect every part of the globe. But APAC's the only part that counters inflation with significant growth. And that's not stopping either, which means it's going to be an interesting playing ground. And he specifically touched upon the significance of India and China.
Where exactly do you think personally there's going to be growth? And did anybody drop,
So through the panels and through several conversations, I heard India, China, Indonesia, and Philippines. Like these are the 4 economies where everyone
consumption is going to increase?
unanimously is extremely bullish.
I think a lot of people stress on India more than any other
Yeah,
country.
because they're all actually in comparison, even with GDP, etc., is much lower than India,
Yeah.
although...
I think there was also a sentiment that India's adoption of ad technology is now finally at a place where it can mean it's a significant market for global companies.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this was the narrative because it was ATS in Singapore.
I mean, it should, right? And they can't come
Yeah.
in like... They can't come in downplay
Yeah.
the...
But
region.
unanimous opinion that this is a part of the world to watch out for.
Yeah.
For sure. On day one, the one session I liked is there was a panel called Black Box Advertising, and specifically it was called The Death of Black Box Advertising and What Audience Targeting Will Look Like From Here On. And we talked about this on last week's podcast because I expected them to talk about the resurrection of direct sold inventory or contextual. And they interestingly went in a different direction. So the panel had representation from Procter & Gamble, Leo Burnett, Kinesso, and Skeleton Key. So they had the entire funnel. And they opened by saying, funnily enough, while we've called this the death of black box advertising, we are just going to talk about why it's still going to work. And they talked about PMAX. They joked about the fact that, much like a teenager who wants their allowance and doesn't want to be asked questions.
Where they're spending that money.
It seems to be that is what's happening in our industry as well, where if we're seeing the evolution of products like PMAX, then there is both a need and a solve for routes where you can spend your money, get your results, and it's almost like they call it a metrics machine. And the panelists made some interesting points in favor of this, where Madeline Farrington from Kinesso basically said there is a huge difference between theory and practice. And while there are long-term incentives for transparency and for black box targeting to die out and for alternates to sort of show up, the short-term incentives to spend money in comfort areas to get those metrics going, because that's what your boss is going to ask you for at the end of the day, is still very hard to change. And this is why they said this is not the last of products like PMAX that we will see. I thought that was because usually at events you expect to see narratives that are idealistic. Right? We must be transparent. We must move towards sustainability. I saw this even at ATS Singapore 2022, where Raj Parekh was asked point blank if brands will be willing to spend 5% more for greener places for their money? And he said, absolutely not.
Yeah.
He said, he was so transparent about it. He said, absolutely not.
Because you're spending, because they have different programs for sustainability, and then they have different programs for advertising in terms of how money is actually budgeted. So why would you mix the two at this point? Although idealistically, if it's part of your DNA, then you should be actually doing this sustainably any which ways. But in your text to us, you said that Rachel Smith, who's the CEO of Exchange Wire, opened by talking about SPO, curation, ad networks, the new retail media, and AI in 3 areas, which was in creative, media planning, and activation. All themes that we've seen being spoken about, being written about in mainstream media, as well as it's spoken about at our customers' offices as well. Out of these, this list of opportunities that she spoke about, which do you think you're most excited about, and like the majority of the people there seem to be pushing for? What did you think? Anything specific that stood out for you?
Yeah, for me, I think I mentioned this as well when we were going to ATS, that I was really looking forward to go and check out what's the conversation in the retail space. And I went with that we need to have a retail ad network, and I would expect to have that kind of a conversation. And quite surprisingly, I heard something that made me think about it in a different way, where people were talking about from an advertiser standpoint, which is very close to a retail ad network, but to go at a place where they want to do a lot of full funnel, which means that if I was advertising on retail platforms, and I need to also, if I have to make them full funnel, I also need to have offline stuff in it, which means that it could be digital hoardings and stuff like that in the, so, and how do you, if you have options like that, then how do you go about measuring the capabilities of that? So that was a very interesting takeaway from me in that entire retail space, because back home when you come here, we do know that the entire retail space, even back here in India, is like going into a very big transformation, I would say, where we're getting into that space of getting into a ad network zone. And that's going to be a good game changer and a lot of money. And we all know that in the retail space is a lot more transparent. And that was something even the panelists there conveyed, that this is the entire retail space is going to be much more transparent than anything else. And that was quite refreshing, because nobody else talks about digital and says, oh, measurement is so sorted. So to go there and be like, oh, retail, it's going to come, it's going to be built up, and measurability is going to be so well. So that's quite refreshing for me.
In line with retail, which I also found to be one of, I mean, there was 1 or 2 sessions on AI, but unlike what we hear at other events, everybody was not talking about AI. It was just, it was literally a footnote.
I love that.
That's because it's a big threat to this industry as well, right? Because there were a lot of agencies
I think
actually
it's a
being
contradiction. One is it could be a threat, but also 2, there are parts of this value chain that have had AI embedded in it for a long time.
Right.
It's not new.
Yeah.
And they know where it actually drops off, right?
Yeah.
And in the 3 areas that Rachel Smith talks about, which is creative, media planning, and activation, you can actually see where it goes, the level to which it could go, and then after which it's a cliff where you really need context, predictive capabilities, and people thinking about it. So yeah.
So, sorry.
Anand was saying something that we cut him in on.
In line with what Abash was saying, which is honest, brutally honest conversations around things like retail media and where we're heading, things like AI and where we're heading. They had a nice panel around the power of data in a privacy-centric world. And once again, it was a bunch of panelists that just cut through all the noise and went straight to the heart of it. And there was a gentleman called Jonathan Edwards from Dentsu, who he had something called the Data Consciousness Project. And he basically said, if you showcase to the world your focus on privacy and the stack you have, and the fact that it's your sort of big area of focus, and think that people will just give you their data, then who are you kidding? And he went down this route of and I just coincidentally I saw this on LinkedIn yesterday, which said data is not given to you, it's earned. And these guys were getting to the heart of the fact that any of these trends, whether it's curation, whether it's AI, whether it's retail media, the bedrock, as we all know, is sound data. And just saying that I am a privacy conscious company doesn't earn you the right to get consumers' data. And they talked about the fact that it takes stakeholder alignment, then it takes a practice, then it takes a longish term investment to get to a stage where you can get a continuous pipe of data that you have actually earned. And these are the same guys who said CTR is the most pointless metric known to
Yeah,
man.
you all had a good laugh about that.
Yeah. But
It is the most, but it seems to be the easiest one that everybody can hang their hat on, which goes back to your need for traditional methods of reporting and understanding of information, although it is black boxed. So you'll just go down to some kind of a metric that is easy for the person who's asking for it to understand as well as for you to.
Yeah. But once again, I found, like, for me, that was the central theme across all of ATS, refreshing honesty. And that's what Jonathan said. He said, no, nobody's going to just give you their data because you're a part of the value chain and you claim to be privacy first. Nobody's just going to give you their data. So he said, yes, data is important. That's now passé. It's become a cliche. Yes, you can't do anything else without it. It's not something that you can just open a tap and start getting. And they were talking about what it takes internally. And also, most data practices, whether it's on the brand side, whether it's on the publisher, whether it's on the tech side, can very quickly become a cost center. And if you don't prove results and you're suddenly entering a bear market, you're the first one to go.
Yeah,
And then you start from zero again. So they were addressing the realities of straddling research with the fact that you must impact revenue while you're somehow trying to figure out how to get to a sustainable pipe of data. It was a very, very nuanced conversation, clearly from a bunch of people who are in the thick of it. And I loved the candor. It was very refreshing.
I think the entire across both the days, there was a lot of people being very candid. Like it's just remember the session that you were excited about, attention as a measurement. And Josh Gallagher was just sitting there, and he said, "I don't understand why attention is getting so much attention."
Imagine that.
Yeah. It is quite refreshing because he was like, no, yeah, CTR has been there, everything is there. Why are we talking about it now? It makes sense.
There's nothing else to talk about because nobody else on the other side is understanding what this group of people are actually working on, right? Because the majority of the workforce in ad tech, as well as the sales and even the buyers, they have to catch up to a lot of these things right now, and that kind of trickle down is not happening, and it has to be a force that actually goes into the market and re-educates people on how we need to look at data. Okay. How did ATS end? As in, what note did it end on? Abash looks very excited.
No. Someone gave a really good analogy because the last session was on AI, on conversational AI. And one person I forget who was among the panelists that said this, but they mentioned that the entire bits of advertising is having the right communication at the right time to the right person. And that in this entire was very hard to hit that nail, right? It could be any sports advertising, retail, any of it. It's very hard to hit that right communication, right time, right person. But with conversational AI, or even with that nail is going to be hit more accurately. And I couldn't agree more. And I was quite excited when I heard that analogy and I was like, so that's so well put. Quite good.
Right.
The last session, and of course you know this, when you're at a conference and you're at an event, when I'm watching a panel, I think I should be outside networking, and I'm outside networking. I should.
Correct.
I feel I'm missing a panel. So I didn't attend the AI session. And it was nice to have two of us there. But the last session I attended was very publisher focused, and it was called Publishers Building Sustainable Mixed Revenue Model Businesses, and that was interesting.
Yeah.
We were South China Morning Post, CNN, BBC, and Vogue. And of course, Vogue,
all publishers.
And Vogue said, well, as you know, we are the most premium publisher there is.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Was it at least a titter from the audience?
Of course. When you have Kieran O'Kane as the moderator,
yes,
every third sentence is going to be a dry joke.
Yeah.
And it was nice because they all got up on stage and said, sub 10% of our revenue is programmatic. Let's not talk about it. And they went deeper and deeper into their relationships with brands, consultative approach to campaign creation, custom audience curation and development. And they went into parts of the ads ecosystem that we are a part of that we love. And right before that was a talk by Raj Parekh, who heads up sales at MediaCorp, who took one campaign, the Temasek Foundation, and went deep into it. And he talked about how they layered multiple channels to create impact that is more than the sum of its parts. So those two sessions I thought were very different. And I spoke to Raj separately, and he basically said that last year he had given Rachel this feedback that they should focus on different parts of the ad campaign value chain and not just on transactional or programmatic or transparency. And apparently Rachel said, why don't you be the change? Come and break down your favorite campaign. So he said, sure. So he basically picked his favorite campaign from the year and broke it down. And it was really nicely done. They had a campaign which was a combination of multiple channels, including social and influencer marketing.
Right.
And he talked about how it created impact that would not have been otherwise possible. So I like the holistic nature of these two sessions, which were back to back.
Very cool. And no news of anything to do with CTV at this conference. I'm surprised.
Yeah, I was quite surprised.
Yeah.
I surprisingly had some people talk about set-top boxes, and I was like, that's dying.
Set-top boxes. That's not actually dying, but
yeah,
I mean,
but I was like, yeah, coming from India.
No
get rid of
no
it.
CTV
No
at all,
CTV.
right?
Yeah, quite surprised.
Very surprising, because I thought at least there would be some kind of conversation, some panel about CTV. Anyway, so to segue from ATS, it's clearly been a fun trip, and we've learned a lot. If you guys are listening to the podcast, want to know more, just go to our LinkedIn page, because we have a lot more on ATS there than, like I said, even Exchange Wire does. We've always had fun attending these events.
Always had fun in Singapore. We finished day 2 of the last day of the trip, and I thought we'd go to Jewel, the mall at the airport, and then Abash had to take a call.
Oh no!
So we didn't.
Oh no!
So we went. So next, the Jewel has always evaded.
Apparently, the Jewel closes at 10:30 in the night.
Oh yeah.
It's not open the whole night.
We got to the airport super early because I
We're
had
at
that
4.
Oh.
4 p.m.
call.
Yeah.
And the call was slotted for 1 hour. And guess how long did we have the call
10
for?
minutes.
Yes.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Well, that's work for you, I guess. Anyway, so in news, I think, while you attended a good event, I thought you'll come back with some serious gossip, but it was obviously very well put together and stayed in comparison to what I have been following with the Code Conference. And we were sharing these videos back and forth between Linda Yaccarino and Yoel, right? So Yoel is their ex-head of security, and Linda, of course, is their new CEO. But
Security, brand safety, moderation, content.
everything.
Yeah.
And when I was watching both those videos, right, one is, I'm like, man, this kind of conversation doesn't happen anywhere else. And Twitter has been the center of even our podcasts.
Yeah.
And when Yoel talks about how Twitter is the platform for democratic discourse, I'm like, I don't even think about it like that right now. But then the way they position the entire platform and what's happening in the US. And of course, Linda's rebuttal, which she said she had 45 minutes to do, and she actually stayed on stage.
Yeah, and she stayed longer.
She stayed longer so that people could ask her more questions and whatever else. It was, from what I read on The Verge, I thought it was going to be like, I thought there were going to be tears or shouting or getting up and walking away. But it was tense. But
it wasn't as bad.
It wasn't as bad as they made it out to be.
I mean, as always, it's been sensational. Even
Sensationalized.
The criticism that Kara Swisher has attracted.
Yeah.
Is
Like
not,
she sat on the couch, the back of the room, while Linda Yaccarino was on stage. Come on. I mean, I was like, what is, like, it really felt
she's been
a little...
trying to retire for a while.
I
And
know.
nobody lets her do it. But Kara said something on her podcast, which I heard later, which is, CEO should be able to do this. They get paid big bucks and they should not be surprised by tough journalism.
Yes.
2, she said, to his credit, Elon Musk is great at interviewing, and there is no amount of surprise that no surprise move that you can pull that will throw him off guard. He's candid, he's brutal, he's transparent, he has no problem pulling punches. And Linda Yaccarino, to her credit, I think wasn't as bad as they make her out to see. And neither was Yoel Roth. He was actually very well put.
Yeah, both of them were very well. They really, really did a good job. But I don't think I've seen anybody else face such tough journalism with such calm. it was restrained. There's definitely undercurrents on that stage. I was like, my toes were curling, thinking, "Oh my God, this is really, really these are really tough questions to ask." And she wasn't. There was she was being defensive, but it wasn't in a way that was weak. I liked it. I mean, and to the US's credit, I mean, their biggest exchequer is entertainment. I mean, whatever you say, between the writer strike to the code conference videos to whatever's happening there, it's
So
always
I
fun.
read the piece in the Financial Times which dropped a week before that event, which is a biography of Linda Yaccarino, which also referenced the fact that there are a handful of leaders who have successfully managed to be Elon Musk's second in command. One of them is Gwynne Shotwell, who's the COO of SpaceX. And I went and watched an entire interview that she did. And I think Linda's on her way to being the next person in that group. If
She'd certainly
she
hold
can
her
last
own.
the next 2 years.
I mean, she can certainly hold her own, so
Yeah.
good luck to her. Roku, we spoke about this the last time I was on the podcast, has now dropped some new features and
What
is
has it
looking a lot like the YouTube brand channel, right? So you can, and they've focused specifically on sports lovers. So they've basically allowed you on the same rail, if you look at your electronic program guide, to be able to look at sports, I'm assuming from different providers, where you're able to line them up one after the other. The other thing that you're allowed to do is also to hide channels that no longer interest you, so that you're able to curate your own experience versus, we were thinking that electronic program guide would be automatically curated for you, but then it has to start somewhere. So therefore, this whole hiding of channels that no longer interest you. So that I think the reign of OEMs is starting, right? And I mean, I know that we were talking about the age of mobile or whatever else, but I think
Took
the
10
reign
years.
of
The year of the
correct.
mobile.
So the reign of the OEMs is starting now, and I think that is something that we should all be looking forward to, and it's going to affect a lot of things downstream in terms of monetization. I was talking to somebody from AWS the other day, and we were talking about our idea of convergence. And my idea of convergence was more about from a consumer perspective, right? Where you have CTV, where you can actually access your apps from your television itself. But he was talking about more about how a broadcaster can offer spots or impressions based on where the viewer is actually watching that content, whether it's on free ad supported streaming television or on the app, and how it's actually bought. So the ability for a broadcaster to be able to manage converged sales, right, in an agile manner is something that's a flavor of the day right now. Everybody's trying to look for solutions based on it. So that's an interesting take, because I keep thinking that something will happen, downstream in the way workflows are handled, but it is
From
going
a
to become
consumer angle, I still think the handoff between the whole content aware, device agnostic, I still struggle with the handoff. I don't know of an app that has really cracked it for me. I don't know if you face this. I find that when I jump from one device to another, there's always something that goes. Like if I watch a video on my phone and then I go and watch it on TV, it's like 3-4 minutes behind.
yes.
Mm,
Trying
first
to go
world
back and
problems.
forth. First world problems. If you're saying 3 to 4 minutes behind, it's definitely first world problems. Speaking of content handoff, October 3rd, I don't know. I'm looking at your faces and I don't think you guys are Mean Girl fans. Did you
No.
ever watch Mean Girls?
I think
You
clips of
watched
it.
clips of
I
it?
watched Mean Girls.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's on Reels and
So
things.
October 3rd is when her boyfriend, Lindsay Lohan's boyfriend, or whatever, like her interest, turns around and asks her, "What day is it?" And she's like, "Today is October 3rd." And that's the first thing that he says. So in honor of October 3rd, and Mean Girls. Mean Girls is now on Netflix as well in India. I don't know whether it's all over in anywhere else in the world. But Paramount released Mean Girls in 23 parts on TikTok for free on October 3rd.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. And the thing is that there's a generation of kids who are discovering this content for the first time.
I realized after I watched Mean Girls that many memes suddenly made sense. I laughed at those memes before, but suddenly I was like,
Oh, yes.
this is
But,
extra.
but is this because they have no new content, or
No.
it's just some stuff?
Think about it, right? Now, there's definitely going to be some Mean Girls revival. Pink is going to come back. There's going to be some kind of content that's... And anyway, there's Pink because of Barbie and whatever else. It's already in the mix. There'll be so much... there'll be so much content that will come out based on Mean Girls. There'll be, I don't know, H&M picking up, you know, the Mean Girls franchise or whatever, and you'll have T-shirts with it. God knows. But remember, Friends, Seinfeld, everybody kind of resurrected themselves on these new platforms. So 23 episodes, 23 clips or episodes on TikTok for Mean Girls is fantastic because everything about Mean Girls it can be memized, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I think I need to go watch this.
You got to go watch it
You
again.
have to watch.
It's
I
available
watched
on.
it like 3 or 4 years ago
Yeah.
because I was pushed to a corner like this, and I was like, I gotta.
This
watch it.
weekend.
No, but it's not about not having new content. And I mean, if you followed the writer's strike recently, there's an element of residual revenue, which is all about how do you continue to share revenue when older content takes off. When there's so much older content and IP that can be repurposed. I mean, I was listening to a podcast this morning, where the David Glover, who wrote the screenplay for Foundation, which is a series on Apple Plus, talked about this process. Foundation is written by Isaac Asimov like decades ago. And he was talking about it from a different perspective, which is how do you take a script like that, work with a tech company like Apple, and write a screenplay which does not irritate pure sci-fi fans.
Yes. And they've done a damn good job of it.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it, even if a lot of our imagination you can't keep up with people's imaginations, but it is done. They've done a really, really good job with it.
So I have to watch The Foundation. I have not seen
You
it.
not?
Yeah.
Well,
Is
I
it
haven't
good?
seen it
It's
yet.
really good.
Yeah, I have to see it.
It's
No.
really good. I like it. But going back to the writer's strike and Paramount dropping these 23 clips and episodes on TikTok, the whole conversation now is how are these actors? This is going to be streamed a million times. It's going to be shared. It's going to be liked. People are going to use the voices. They're going to create their own clips. It's going to move forward. They're going to be like Mean Girls skits. It's going to explode into a plethora of inspired creativity, right? And how do these actors or people who are in this movie in any capacity get paid royalty or residuals?
I was just there.
That is something that you don't, because Paramount is definitely making money on this. They're showing ads on it. TikTok is making money. People are making money off of it. But even just the release of it on this platform, how do they make money? And that is something that, I don't know, I have not read what finally they closed on in terms of their, which we'll cover probably in next couple of podcasts.
Okay. Yeah.
But I know that from what I was listening to on The Town with Matthew Bellamy, they were talking about how the starting writers and the big writers will really benefit because it's become being a writer now is not so badly paying. But the middle, the belly, is going to suffer because you have to be really good to get to the top. And you have to be good enough to be let in, right? So if you're new, then getting in means like right at the start, there would be a gate because you'll have to pay a writer a lot more, which means that when there's high value, then volumes obviously go down, right? Logically. So the number of writers will start being fewer. And then, you have a lot more that writer needs to do. And then, of course, you have AI to help and all of that jazz. But residuals, how do people get paid on this is still, I don't know whether it is even possible to understand how do you travel along with that content, which we spoke about in terms of YouTube, but that's still within their own universe.
So let's do one thing. I'll do some prep. We'll break that down next Friday.
Let's do that.
At least to the extent that's possible.
For sure. Right. And the last thing that's happening is, of course, the big power between the monopolists in the US, between Amazon and Apple and Google. And everybody's pointing fingers. But one of the things that I read in this Google's trial that was covered in Slate, which is a very aptly titled piece, which is called Amazon, Google, and the Garbage Internet, right? Where you're basically like littering the internet with all these like ads. Today, if you want to go search for something on Amazon or even on Google, although you're searching for it, you will find 11 ads that will pop up, in an upside down L on your search page. And then you will have an ad for the organic link that you are looking for. If I type out slate.com, I have slate.com as the website link and I have slate.com as the ad because you want people to you want to occupy that space so that you're able to get to the website faster. But, when they're talking about feds going after people in power, they end it on the fact that the last couple of breakups that they did was the oil company. Then it was the Bell company, which was the telephone. And then Microsoft was warned about
Yeah.
how they were bundling
Bill Gates' famous antitrust.
antitrust lawsuit. But now, travel many years since that last lawsuit with Microsoft, the companies that they're going up against have armies of lawyers that the government cannot be kept busy with it. Earlier, the government could bully a company and keep them busy, right? But now these companies have lawyered up like crazy. So they want to make sure that future policy and future behavior is actually affected rather than punishing people for something that's already happened. So I think that's the different take on what at least I thought was happening. I thought they were being punished for what has already happened, but actually they're trying to get
They
them
tried,
into.
but they cannot.
They cannot because it's a losing battle. But to try and change what's going to happen in the future, I think that is something that everybody will get on board on, and it will be a good use of everybody's time and money to be able to move that forward, and in the best interest of advertisers, publishers, and users. Yeah. Anyway, anything else that you guys had to talk about today? Is that
No,
it?
I think what I did.
Singapore better than Dubai, since you have now been on two.
It's a very tough question to answer because
Don't piss off an entire country.
Is anybody going to watch Cricket World Cup? Did you get tickets?
No. I mean, we just spoke about how difficult it is to land a ticket. So
Yeah, I didn't know that. I
Yeah,
really
even I
didn't
just
know
got to
that
know
there
about
was
it.
only
Yeah.
7% of tickets. 8%
yeah,
of
but they're
tickets.
trying to open it up at the last minute, and people haven't been given enough time to travel.
It's a mess.
chaos.
It's a mess. My family has tickets for a match, and we are out of town that weekend.
Oh, we're going to
Um,
Goa that
yeah.
weekend? Oh, nice.
Which
So
match?
it's the 20. It's Australia versus Pakistan in Bangalore.
Oh,
Yeah.
be
My
epic.
dad's gonna go for it. He just bought it on Book My Show. In all this, tickets are not available. This, that. My dad just went and booked it. He's
How
like,
much did it cost?
I don't remember.
Okay.
But I just found it funny. In the middle of all this, my dad's like, "What are you guys talking about? I just bought it. It works. Maybe it's not working for you. Your laptop." But we're still trying to get tickets for an India match, which will be significantly harder, I'm sure.
Yeah. But it'd be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I mean,
I would say it's next to impossible now, right?
Why?
'Cause Isn't the World Cup started?
No, so you need to find someone who knows someone
Who knows someone? And this is
Ah.
India, man. You'll know someone who
who's
knows
gonna
someone.
who can get you from the 92%.
Yeah, see,
the
now I'm
92%
missing
of
working in an agency.
reserved seats.
Yeah, now I miss working in an agency.
That's
now,
what
so
you
I've
mean.
never landed.
Don't you have agency friends?
Yeah,
Do you
but
want to
now
talk
I
to them
have to-
on the podcast and say, hey, can you please give us some tickets?
Yeah, why not?
Anyway, all right. So I hope you get to watch your cricket match. We'll cover what's happening in the ICC World Cup in the coming podcast because we need to build. It's how many matches are there? How many matches are there? 43? 45 matches.
45.
45 matches, 77 days or some statistic like that.
I'd rather watch it on my connected TV.
Dude, I've been tracking them on their Instagram
I was
page,
trying to
which
tell
by
my
the
dad,
way,
I'm like, oh, there's popcorn at home. There's commentary. You know, in the stadium, there's no commentary. It's so frustrating. Like something happens, and if you're like looking away,
why can't you just tap into the commentary that's happening on their live
there's a
feed?
lag in it.
Oh.
By the
But I
way,
thought it'll be electrifying inside a stadium where like sitting there and shouting and screaming.
It is. But it's just the games are too. If this was T20, sure. So, or even if it was a test match, the crowds are thinner, sure. This one day,
Okay, guess this number, right? ICC handle on Instagram. How many followers do they have?
ICC.
ICC, just ICC. Not the World Cup, not CWC. ICC.
43,000.
Okay, how many do you think?
that's like a odd guess.
Yeah,
I
it's
guess-
oddly specific. guess,
Yeah.
though.
If I was to throw a dart, I will throw it.
What about you, Abash?
So on the Instagram handle, I would presume it's at least 1 million or 2.
Gautam? 1 million? 2 million. 28.8 million.
What? I'm so far
Wow.
off.
Yes. Okay.
43,000.
Who follows the ICC? Follow teams, you follow player publishers,
They
actual
have
cricketers.
everything on ICC. I was shocked. I was so shocked.
Fake
It's
news.
not fake.
Oh man, don't say that. It's so
Bots.
sad. No. What? There is some brand manager who's done the entire hard work and he just called it fake.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations whoever has been handling this Instagram handle
ICC.
for
Why don't you follow
ICC.
IndiQ?
Sure, if they have their own league.
Anand, it's not apples to apples. IndiQ.
Anyway, on that note, I hope everybody is going to be watching the Cricket World Cup over the next couple of weeks. We'll see you next week. Thank you, Gautam. Thank you, Santosh. And thank you, Anand and Abash. Welcome
Okay.
back to India. Bye, everybody.